I'm pretty sure no one asked for this video, but you're getting one anyway. For those of you that are unaware or maybe just brand new to shooting film, you may have heard the rumblings of the concept to store your film in a fridge or freezer to extend their longevity. Put film in cold place, film like cold place, film lasts much longer. Heat is really your main enemy in this battle, and can damage the film's actual emulsion and sensitivity to light a lot faster than you had intended. If you've ever shot expired film and noticed those strange color shifts, or maybe a faint exposure when you feel like you exposed everything correctly, that's kind of a taste of what we're talking about here, and that can happen to newer films if left in the wrong place. So maybe that roll of Color Plus you've had in your car's glove box for 2 weeks, maybe take that out. Most film, if stored correctly, can last way beyond its expiration date, even not in a fridge or freezer. And if you do choose to do this method, keeping your film dry is just as important, if not more important, than storing it somewhere cold. Which sounds maybe harder in a place that's literally creating icicles on your frozen peas, but it's doable, and I believe in you. This is honestly not something I'm the best at, but it is something I intend to improve on over the next few months. I always find it fascinating what types of film people not only like to shoot, but bulk buy and store in hopes of preserving something for any given situation. And with how many Fuji stocks have quietly disappeared over the last few years, or the many other popular looks the decade before that, this strategy really isn't that crazy if you think about it. Maybe you're a portrait fanatic, or only like to shoot with Lomo turquoise, although I don't know why you would want to do that to yourself. But there's nothing more telling than your cold storage and what you're putting on the back burner for that day that may never actually come. There is no right or wrong answer, just the ticking time bomb in your fridge or freezer that's just waiting to be a memory or another picture of a muscle car. I don't make the rules. The real benefit of this practice can allow stocks to last 5 to 15 years beyond their expiration date, expanding the longevity you have to actually shoot with them if you don't want to shoot with them right now. Obviously, higher ISO films are the first to fall off, while some people are shooting lower ISO films from like the 70s that have been cold stored with almost no shifts when accounting for loss of light and calculating that into your exposure. It's pretty bananas and well worth the experiment, if you got the guts, or the room. Some of my friends have gone so far as to buy mini fridges. You know, the thing that keepers of dad rock like to store their beer in next to their couch? That way they make sure their film and whipped cream don't get mixed together. But in this apartment, I don't have that luxury. I don't even have what would be considered a normal size fridge that was provided from this complex. Honestly, that Xbox mini fridge that everyone was accidentally buying thinking it was an Xbox One a few years ago, that might be the move, but I only dream for now. So I am going to show you my setup, and maybe it can help inspire you in storing your limited edition Portra 400 chapstick. If you're watching this, Kodak, my lips are a little dry. Where am I gonna put you guys? Luchador bottle opener, how about that? Don't have any bottles, but I do have this. Yeah, this is gonna be a rough one. Like I said, fridge, right? Now the thing about my fridge, a lot of people I've noticed they put their film in like a lunchbox or a Tupperware or a plastic bag. We don't do that in this household. You wanna see this madness? Oh God. I told you it's gonna get weird. This is a drawer that I guess people would normally put vegetables in, or sometimes beer. We don't do that here. We store our film in this bad boy and hope our girlfriend doesn't get too mad when it somehow gets more full. So let's go through this because I actually haven't like organized it in quite a while. As you can see, it's in desperate need of a little liquid courage. So let's go through my 120 first, just because that's the type of film I have the least amount of, because I've only been shooting medium format for about 2 months at this point. Got a lot of these loose Kodaks here. Portra 400, overrated, but obviously still good. Ektar 100, I brought this with me on a trip recently. Really wanted to shoot it, but ended up shooting some 35 Ektar, so didn't want to be too redundant. Portra 160, I've shot a few rolls of this in 120, a lot of rolls of this in 35, and I think this is the most slept on Portra. I don't know why. I do always shoot it at 100 speed, so it's getting a little bit of extra light. I know technically it doesn't have as much latitude as 400, but I think 400, for what you're paying for it, you might as well just get Portra 800. I don't really f with Portra 400, even though I have one. Lots of Cinestill 800T. I mean, this is one of my favorite films. It's definitely the film to shoot with 120. That way you're getting so much detail, but you're getting a really distinct look. And I actually really like shooting this in daylight. Kentmere 100, another slept on film. I know a lot of people like the 400 of Kentmere, but this 100, especially with like a red filter, so you're halfway dropping down your f-stop, it gives a really interesting look. Lots of grain, but it's beautiful. Want to shoot this soon. Big box of gold 200, because really this is the cheat code to 120. You've all shot with gold, you know what it looks like, but in 120 it's less contrasty, and in some ways that gives it more of this even look that even Portra has, but for about half the cost. All right, let's dive into some, and of course HP5, because the GOAT. Another Portra 400, I'm being exposed. I had a lot more 120, but I just got back from a big trip and shot a bunch of it, so I'm obviously a little low, but still, some people would consider that a lot of film. We haven't even got started. Let's move on to 35. And some of these are no longer in boxes or labeled, which is really fun. Oh, here's a new one. Aurora 800. I've got a couple of these in here just because I was excited to give it a try when it first came out, and for some reason I still haven't shot it. There is a lot of speculation that this is just the Kodak disposable camera 800 speed film. Some people think it's Cinestill. I really don't know, because the amount of halation it has is definitely apparent, but even Portra has a tiny bit of halation if you're looking at it. If you really look at the highlights in some of the higher ISO Portras, every once in a while there's a little bit of halation. I think that's just like the nature of film. Red scale, love this film. I've gone through about 3 of these boxes already. It's definitely a specific look that you're not always going to want, but the way I look at red scale, it is a variable 50 to 200 ISO film. I found it more to be a 100 ISO film, maybe 50, haven't shot it at that yet. But 200, everything was a little bit too underexposed for me. I do really enjoy it, but I like to think of it not as a color film, but actually kind of a black and white film, the way that you're going to compose shots, because you don't really want to worry about color too much, because it's going to take a lot of it away. If you don't know what red scale is, essentially these are rolls of film that have been spooled in backwards, so you're exposing the back side of your film, and it gives a really strange red look, and in the right conditions you can get something that looks really unique. Since we did Aurora, I did recently pick up some Flick Film Chrome, just because this is the cheaper Ektachrome. Essentially this is still Kodak Ektachrome, but I haven't shot with it yet, but everyone tells me it's the same thing as Ektachrome, so you know what you're getting. Slide film, that's a cheaper version. This is way more expensive. Color Plus have an absolute abundance of this. When we first started the channel in 2023, I fell in love with this film stock immediately. Yes, it's cheap. Yes, it is a good deal, but it also has a look that I really enjoy. For whatever reason, Kodak stopped selling it, or just wasn't anywhere for maybe 6 months. So when it finally came back, I definitely took advantage of that and tried to buy as much as possible. Gold is a very similar color film to Color Plus, so if you've shot with gold, you've kind of shot with Color Plus. I would say gold is a bit more contrasty, whereas Color Plus is almost flat but kind of dirtier. I don't know, every time I shoot this film it feels like something out of a bit more of a memory than it does an actual like presentation of a moment. So that's definitely a distinct look that maybe not everyone is into, but I for sure am. I used to have a lot more Fuji Superia Extra 400. I think this is my last roll, just because who's selling this now and for a decent price? I don't even know that I like it that much. There have been about like 5 moments I've almost shot with it, and then I'm like, it's my last roll though. And then I'll just like hate it and then be mad I shot it. I don't know why. A couple more Portra 160s. Here's some Ultramax. You know, some of these I've taken out of the box because I've gone on a trip thinking that I'll shoot it and then I shoot something else instead. A Fuji 200 loose in the wild. Maybe let's do all my Fujis. So I do also have just the generic. I don't know if this is the when they decided to make Fuji just Ultramax and Kodak Gold secretly, because Kodak is making and spooling their film. I don't remember when I bought this box of 400, but I only have 2 rolls left of that, so that might be the original. And then I have 3 boxes of these like Rite Aid. They used to be kind of like 17, 20, 25 bucks. I don't really remember, but last year this was definitely the deal to get. 3 rolls of film for about the price of 1.5 rolls of Portra. So I almost never shoot this film. It's kind of very consumer. It's fine. I like to think of this as like a good roll to have for like a birthday party or something. I'm not really trying to expect very much out of the shots. Maybe I'll put it into a point and shoot. This is a perfect roll for a beginner that's just trying to learn but doesn't want to spend too much money while they're testing things out, especially in a brand new camera. So for me, this is just kind of like a throw around film. We've got a lot of HP5 because it makes me happy. It really is the GOAT of black and white films because you can do so much with it. You can push it, you can pull it, you can make it contrasty, you can make it flat. The grain is pretty nice. If you prefer the look of black and white, this is definitely the one to go to. I have some other black and white films in here, but this is definitely my favorite. Girlfriend gifted me a brick of this for Christmas, and I'm about 3/4 of the way through. Appreciate you, boo. Got both Pan 100 and Pan 400. I've already spoken how much I love 100, but 400 is also very good. Just a lot of grain on that 400 for what it is. Remember when it used to look like this? It doesn't anymore, but that's how long I've had this one. Ooh, Lomography 800. This is, I don't think that this is a slept on film by any means, but I do love it. It is a nice contender to have when you're shooting a 800 speed film. We didn't have Aurora until like only a few weeks ago. It was kind of just between Portra 800 and Cinestill 800T. As far as Lomography 800 goes, it is a little greener and it does have a weird amount of halation, but I do really like Lomo 800 and it's something that I need to shoot more often. We've got a roll of Artiston ADU Ultra 400. I believe this is a black and white film. I've yet to shoot with it, but I know that it is expired, so I wanna make sure that it's something that is gonna lend itself kind of fun for shooting an expired black and white film. It was stored pretty well. I'm keeping it cold stored, so it's probably fine to shoot as is, but I've never seen this film before, and it might just be another respool of something else. We've got Dracula 35, which is a very low ISO and super contrasty black and white. Got some Ordo 50 ISO, another pretty cool black and white film. Here's some paper. I forget when I got this. It is a 400 ISO black and white film. I believe there's kind of like a gimmicky texture to it. I've never really tried it, so I don't know for sure what it looks like. We got some Panther Air 100. Cool little metal canister. This brand is actually really neat, but this is an aerial film that is very red and punchy, and I've found that shooting with films like this, if you shoot them at sunset or something that's very warm contrasty light, I kind of don't like the look, or you need your lab to really work a little extra hard in dialing in the colors. My buddy Chris, he turned me on to these guys, and they're a great company. They've got a bunch of other ISO films. This one is the one that was most interesting to me. There are other aerial films out there, and this may be coming from the same bulk stock, but it's the first aerial film that I shot with, and in midday lighting, in like the desert, in warmer environments, in like it's really even contrasty highlight, I really like the look. Oh, some Lomo Color 92. I kind of forgot about this stock, honestly. The gods over at Candido, super cool guys. They sent me out some more film. I loved that film stock. The only thing I will say about that company now is their whole slogan is basically to spend money on flights and not film. And over the last year since they've come out, their prices have gone up substantially to the point where I think Cinestill might even be cheaper than them if you buy from their website. They're very similar films, and maybe Candido's a little grainier. I don't know what's going on there. I'm obviously not a company. I don't know how hard it is to run costs and to make the changes that they did, because they do have metal canisters now and all those things, but come on guys, is it really cheaper if we're changing the price that much? I don't know. Lomo Metropolis in 110 film. Why did I buy this? And shout out to Eric over at Tuttle Cameras for gifting me this FPP infrared. This is a black and white film too if you shoot it without a filter, but if you have a filter for infrared, you can actually capture just the infrared lighting, which can give this really strange, dreamy, and dark and contrasty kind of look to your images. Obviously, this is I did a video on this before. You guys can watch it. Pro 100 is probably the most slept on film ever, and I think people are actually starting to turn around onto it the way that I feel about Color Plus. I think a lot of people are starting to feel about Pro 100. This is the cheapest Kodak film you can get. It's very fine grained. This used to be a very popular wedding photography before the portraits were really kind of taking off the way that they are. One Sec is another respool cinema stock brand that I got turned on to recently. The homies over at One Sec, Aiden, Matt, thank you guys. I appreciate these gifted films. This is an interesting one, 640T. You can probably just shoot this at 800, but it is kind of interesting to see something with this ISO rating. You don't see that very often. I've shot their 400D, it looked really great. Here's another strange one, 320T. Like, when do you see these ISOs? It's very specific. You can just kind of make guesstimates, but to see this low of an ISO in tungsten is not something you see very often. Really cool brand. Really nice guys. Their packaging is amazing. This is just cinema film that hasn't had its rim jet layer removed. Want to shoot this out in the desert someday. And you know, just to be a total cliche, yes, Portra 800, but yes, Portra 800. You never know. Kodak keeps going up in price, and I'm getting scared. This film is super interesting, but you're gonna have to wait till next episode to figure out what it is. I'm a Let's get into some of the weird expired films I have in here. So I have no memory when I got this, and why I have so much of it. This American Color Print 400 film. I have so much of this, and why? Why do I have so much of this? I even have some out of the boxes. I don't know what that is. It's probably it was probably stored. Like, look at one point they were selling this for 47 cents. Here's a similar Samsung expired film. Shout out to Alex, my boy. He gifted this to me. This one expired in 2008. I also keep stuff in the freezer. Do you guys like that I'm talking to you off camera so you can't even see anything that's happening? First up are these black and white rolls. 400 TX. When I want to shoot it, it is 400, so it's basically HP5, just Kodak's version of it. Delta 400 ISO, which is very fine grain. I don't know, I don't see it a lot sometimes. I usually see HP5, and this is kind of gone. And then some Ortho Plus Ilford. So this is kind of, when you put red filters on for black and white, this is kind of baked into that look already. But I believe this was expired when I bought. Yeah, this is January 2023. Here's some color ones we haven't talked about yet. Phoenix 200. I shot 2 of these rolls last year. Cinestill 50D, man, I love this stuff, but I never see it in stores, and currently online it is sold out. Ooh, a Provia 100 Fujifilm, so definitely slide film again. Does it say when it expired? It doesn't. So I have no idea when this expired, but I promise you, this is not something that is going to probably work, because what I've heard from slide film that's expired is it just doesn't work. It is kind of cute to see like family of Kodak films and showing what the different ISOs are used for back then. I feel like film doesn't really teach that to newcomers anymore. I'm sure some of you have stumbled on Dane Film's channel. Dude's super nice, really talented guy. And he actually turned me on to this film. He made a video for it about a year ago. I believe it's the way I found his channel though. And this is a film made by Mitsubishi. I don't remember what the full collab was. I just remember that it has a really weird pink purple in the way that it's expired. This is definitely an expired film. I had to get at least one, and I ended up with 2. I gotta shoot it soon, but I also keep it in my freezer because it expired in 2008. And who knows how it was stored before that. These are some films I don't actually keep cold stored because I don't think they're gonna work. But I think they're fun and the packaging's fun. Here's some old Kodak 110 film that I believe is from the 70s, maybe the 80s. This is a weird roll of film I've never seen before. Done a little bit of history on it, but I've also done almost none. So forgive me if I'm totally wrong, but I believe this is a Russian film, Takma 64. But it's not packed in a canister for some reason. It's inside a like mini dark bag that I believe you load yourself. So I don't know if that's the way they sold film back then. I don't know, it's all in Russian. And if this says something terrible, YouTube, I'm very sorry. Now, if you do buy bricks of film and like to store them, and maybe this is a way to kind of bulk up for the next few months, keep in mind when loading this film that you've stored in a fridge or freezer, you want to take it out for at least, I'd say from the fridge, like half an hour, and the freezer at least an hour before you're loading that film, because you could actually break the film. You know, chemistry stuff. Now, the last thing I will say about cold storing, whether it comes to your fridge or your freezer, is it actually works well for shot film that you've already shot. I'm not always able to get right to a lab or develop it instantly. So a good way to kind of preserve your film and make sure that it's going to look as pristine as when you shot it is to keep it in your fridge. What I've started to do is actually started to date the date and the month and everything. So that way I kind of have an idea for how long I've been holding on to this film and if I need to hurry up and get it developed. And you know, my uncle, he has film that he shot maybe in 2008, 2009, he said, and he's just been holding on to it and not in a fridge or freezer. And I kind of had to break his heart a couple months ago and say, there's probably nothing there. And if there is, it's very, very faint. So something to keep in mind if you're shooting a lot of film, but you're not able to keep up with development costs and do everything right as you shoot it. But that's it. Go shoot some stuff. Go buy too much of it and hold on to it. You never know when you're going to feel like, you know what? Mitsubishi, you got me today. No, that one was...